This poster, Our Identity, Disrupting Leadership as a Form of Equity, is presented by Breneil Malcolm at Penn State University and Donna Walker at St. George's University. Leadership is often imagined as an outcome-focused endeavor with stringent governing principles that form the foundation for its practice. Various models offer various epistemological paradigms and theoretical perspectives, including the transformational leadership approach, the participative leadership approach, the situational leadership approach, and the transactional leadership approach. While these models differ in approach, what they all have in common is the lack of emphasis of the strong individuality within teams, a critical element to effective leadership, especially within diverse teams. This overlooking of the uniqueness of bodies within these spaces functions as a form of oppression that is embedded within leadership structures, an ultimate form of inequity. While there is always a search for the most effective models of leadership, perhaps the conversation needs to shift to an undoing of how we establish and practice these models, a critical perspective of leadership, a disruption of leadership as a form of equitable leadership norms and practices. We utilize leadership, identity, and critical theories to ground our discussions and postulations of the necessity to meet the diverse and ever-evolving needs in today's professional higher education environment. We demonstrate the need for heavily individualized and adaptable approaches to leadership practice that seek to capture the diverse and varied lived experiences of team members. This cannot be achieved by steadfastly trying to establish an ideal leadership model. What we need is a critical approach to deconstruct our current normative leadership processes that bound us to normative oppressive practice. The identity process theory, IPT, postulated by Jaspel and Breneil, positions identity as a structure and process. Identity, then, is an ever-evolving process that captures the human lived experience. According to IPT, there are 5 core principles. Content, which refers to the situational specificities of experiences. Value, the subjectiveness with which we ascribe these experiences. Assimilation, how we construe new information into categories. Accommodation, how we adapt existing structures to interpret new information. And finally, evaluation, how we continuously assess new and old information to make more informed decisions. This model proposes a very cyclical and dynamic model as we are ever evolving within our varied, situated, and social spaces. The principles of IPT, taken within the context of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, allow us to imagine a beautiful and authentic space in which our identities and lived experiences are made to flourish. How do we move to a model of greater disruptive leadership practice? We propose 5 basic principles for higher education leaders to foster greater diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and more dynamic models of leadership. Firstly, we must identify and acknowledge our current normative leadership structures. The universal first step to change is to acknowledge current inadequacies and the need for more holistic approaches. Secondly, we must apply critical theoretical frameworks to our leadership practice. We must be able to observe phenomena and identify the planes of oppression that are systemically interwoven into our institutional and social structures. Thirdly, we must then commit to actively dismantling these normative structures. This calls for great work around socio-institutional policy reform. After revising policies, these policies must then be implemented. Finally, all of this work must be grounded in the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Our world is ever evolving. As we continue to tackle the challenges that arise in this current global system, socially, culturally, and politically, we must be active and promptly responsive to the needs of our people, the teams that we lead. This is how we can truly embrace the beauty of our diverse lived experiences that we each bring to our professional spaces. This is how we foster spaces that are truly dynamic and thrive on the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.